The story you are about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
There are two bills that they signed into law recently in Florida that affect transgender people immensely. One is SB 254, which is limits or restricts health care, gender-affirming health care for minors at all, makes it a criminal offense to treat your minor for being transgender. It also includes provisions that deny adults as well. And then the other one is SB 1580, which is the bill that allows insurers and doctors and healthcare payers to deny anyone on the basis of religious, ethical, or moral beliefs, period, which allows them to deny anyone.
So if you're a fascist, you can use that as an excuse not to treat someone, right?
Exactly. And that goes for any, here's the thing, it goes for any doctor, nurse, pharmacy, hospital, mental health provider, medical transports, clinical lab personnel, nursing homes, etc. So anyone in any of those establishments for any reason can deny, say, me, healthcare because they don't like transgender people.
So
that fits really good with the
Satanist, but a Satanist who is a doctor or one of those things refuse to treat a Christian.
A Christian? Oh, that would be interesting.
Well, I mean, that would be a way to test the law, man.
Wouldn't it be?
It's in really good with the Hippocratic Oath, huh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much saying anyone can deny care to anyone for any reason.
Right, and the providers also include healthcare services of health insurers, health plans, HMOs, or any other entity that pays for, arranges payment of any healthcare service.
Yeah, sounds legit to me.
You know what I keep thinking? I keep thinking it would really be cool if we could come up with some way to force a class action suit against the United States government for allowing any religious concepts from entering into the lawmaking provisions of this country, because there's too much precedent that says we have religious freedom and there is a separation of church and state. And I would love to see somebody come up with it, taking them to court and saying all these laws that these assholes came up with in these states is bullshit.
With this Supreme Court, good luck to you and the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Exactly.
Well,
this position of this court.
What about this? Okay. So one of the ways what we need to do is, and help me here, Tally, if I'm mistaken. In the Jewish faith, right? If the fetus is any threat to the mother whatsoever, they are obligated to get an abortion. Is that not correct?
Yeah, we absolutely
right, because they do not see the fetus as a human being until it is born.
Right.
Exactly.
So why couldn't the Jewish people or someone from the Jewish faith?
There are 2 or 3 Jewish women suing Texas right now.
Okay, good. That's awesome.
There's a class action suit right now that's going on. I don't know, is that the one in Texas? But I know there's one that's going on right now where a lady said that she was forced to give birth, even though they knew it might be fatal to her and the baby.
Yeah, didn't they made her go out and sit in her car?
Oh, yeah, that's a different one. That's
until she was, like septic or something, or until she went into shock before they would treat her.
Yeah,
and they said she had to be if she had an infection, they could treat her then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's a
bullshit.
different case. That's yeah.
You know, and it's one
There's
thing
a
for
woman
us
who
to sit here and shake our heads and go, you know, this is bullshit. But the real story is, what the fuck can we do about it? And that's the real story, you know?
Well,
I mean,
that's the only
what the
thing that
fuck
we
can we
can.
do?
Like, we can't do anything about it. That's I mean, I know of or can think of. Like, the only thing, unfortunately, that it seems anyone can do about it is lawsuits.
Here's the issue that we have right now in general with human nature, and that is evil people are very good at plotting what they want to do and taking a fairly long game to get there. They don't have a problem with that. People that are just decent, they see problems come up and they want to fix them. Well, by the time you try to fix something that these evil assholes are doing, it's too late because they've already come up with a way. For example, the voting laws. They found out ways to get minorities so that they can't vote. They come up continuously with different ways to do that. They gerrymander. They do all this stuff. And by the time we figure out what they're doing and try to stop it, it's too late. You got to at least wait till the next election cycle to try to do something about it. And you might be too late then.
Well, we can encourage business owners to not do business with those kinds of people. You know, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, there has to be something that we can do. I can't sit here anymore. I've just had it. So
the only reason I bring that up is because if you put the right people in the right positions at the right time, you can control everything. And that's basically what it's not a small minority, but it's a minority in this country. That's what they've done. They put the right people in the right places to actually circumvent democracy and legal means of doing things the right way. It's just sad.
right.
Let them do it.
It's like it won't. I don't think it can stand with federal laws against discrimination in the Constitution. I don't think it can stand forever. But I think the whole reason that they're making their own laws and challenging it is because they want this Supreme Court to change the Constitution. I mean, I think they're up to something really, really awful, and it's really scary. It's so scary. And it's like, you know, it's like, when does it start to matter to you when they take away your rights? You know, it's like, oh, it's my friend's rights. It's my gay friend's rights. It's my transgender friend's rights. It's my women's friend's rights. It's my own rights, you know, and like at some point it's everybody's rights. And you don't realize that until Hitler is marching down the street.
Well, I got really scared when I saw Mitch McConnell stop Obama from getting his Supreme Court pick. And I was like, that's a bad precedent.
Yeah.
Hey, Ariel.
Yeah.
Hey, Ariel.
Ariel. It's Ariel. It's not Ariel.
How's it going, guys?
Good.
So
we're trying to figure out ways to save the world here. So
Guess you were chomping at the bit this morning.
Yeah, well,
we're having free dinner snack.
It's the time difference.
The 5-minute time difference between there and California.
No. We have one of our correspondents is zooming in from the other end of the world.
Hey, did we actually start the show already?
Yes.
We just started talking, but then it got really good. So yeah, it's on. Welcome to our show.
So
we have Julie as our guest. All of us here
is because earlier, about 2 weeks ago, I heard news that they had set up 2 bills in Florida that together meant they could execute you if you had a child who was transgender. Now, that's not true. But it led me to look into the bills that they did pass. And there's two particular importance. One that stops children from being treated for gender dysphoria, which is deadly. And it also prevents adults from being treated. And one that allows, as I said before, allows insurers and providers to deny anyone on the grounds of religious, moral, or ethical beliefs, which are not defined. And so it's an outright attack on the LGBTQ community in Florida.
Well, and there again, you're right. It goes back to, well, that's in Florida. You know, that's never going to stand. You know, somebody will, but that's not the only place.
But it did stand.
It's now law, and 14 states have followed.
And I'm sure it's being challenged.
It is being
by the
challenged.
ACLU.
The one about not treating transgender youth is being challenged by 3 families in a federal court. So that's up for grabs. But until then, it's a crime to provide, say, puberty blockers to your child, which are completely reversible and have no lasting effects other than good health for the child.
Wow.
And people talk about regret rates. In a study of 7,000 people, including children, there was a less than 1% regret rate for treatment for transgender symptoms. And in children, there was a 0% regret rate. Regret rates for surgeries and treatments across the board are 14% in this nation. If anybody had a 1% or less regret rate for their procedures, it would be considered a miracle. But because it's transgender people, 1% is considered dangerous.
It's really fascinating because I see people make certain posts on Facebook about transgender stuff, and it's clearly their religious beliefs, but they don't really have any clear-cut argument against it. They throw out every platitude that they have against it. Some of them don't even make any sense. And all I keep thinking to myself is, if you really believe this that strongly, then you ought to be able to give decent scientific reasoning as to why you feel that way. Or, you know, some cogent argument about that, instead of just saying, you know, it's my religious beliefs that tell me that's not right.
Right. Well, being transgender and doing drag are not similar in any way. They like it doesn't relate. But a lot of people who are against don't understand the difference.
I mean, they're similar.
And claim that they're. What's that?
I mean, they're similar in that they blur and play with, or not play with, the case of transgender, but in the case that they step outside of traditional like gender bounds as they are traditionally.
The only thing really that's different is that people who are against one are probably against the other and don't understand what the hell they're talking about. But
we've literally been doing drag for years.
This is my question, okay? Those same fucking people are the ones that support their fucking priests and their pastors, which are the real ones that are abusing kids. All right. There was in one state that I just saw this report the other day. In one state, the Catholic Church had said that there was 120 some cases of abuse over this time period. And it turns out,
it was 1,400.
It turns out there was 1,400.
Yeah.
They were saying it's like 150 in a second in one fucking state. Now, these are a religious leaders in the community, and none of these fucking politicians are going after them. None of them are saying, hey, here's the real threat to our fucking children is the church and fucking guns. And it's not the drag queens, it's not the transgenders, it's not gays, it's not black, not Hispanic. It's these white motherfuckers.
It's our own dogmatic, racist, sexist, homophobic beliefs within our own families that are
always
affecting children.
Want to go to the Bible about cross-dressing, though. The Bible is only actually against like cross-dressing in the commission of a crime. So
So I shouldn't be a bank robber.
It's illegal to
Exactly.
cross-dress if you're committing a crime. I love it.
So
I was one
yeah,
of those
so if
kids.
you're not doing it to like hide out when you're robbing a bank, or basically the main idea was that somebody might, like a man might dress up as a woman to like go perv out on ladies, or mainly to commit adultery, to sneak around with a woman. That was the main concept there. But if you're not trying to commit a crime and you just want to wear some ladies' clothes, like you
Which
do
men have been doing since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
Right.
well,
But I was one of those
I mean,
kids
what's
who was
ladies'
raped by a
clothes,
priest,
you know?
and he was moved to a different church. That's all that was done.
Yeah.
Well, that's usually the way the Catholic Church handles that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rachel,
What
I'm,
was
I'm
the
sorry. We
movie
can tell that you're trying to say
Spotlight?
something, but we can't really hear you. You kind
Right.
of froze up there, Rach.
Oh,
You know, the movie that kind of shone the light on the Catholic Church.
In Boston.
I think it was called Spotlight.
yeah.
Yeah.
Very good film.
But I think that was a really great sort of, you know, view into what they do, is just move people around, and that they're totally guilty of not protecting children and continuing to employ abusers, pedophiles.
Yeah, that's what
oh,
happened to
And I don't
Julia.
know and Julia, I don't know, I read over here that Florida also passed a law that was about making it illegal to talk about transgendered or gay people in school all the way from K to 12. Is that something that happened?
that is true.
Yeah.
And that's
Don't say
another way
gay.
they're trying to wipe out the existence of transgender people in Florida. They're
Right.
not allowing, one of the main treatments for transgender youth is to allow them to change their hairstyle, dress differently, assume a different name, and live as the person they believe they are. I should say as the person they know they are. Because these
Yeah.
kids know, like I knew at 9 years old. I knew. I mean, I thought I was a girl. And then at 9 years old, when I came out of sexual latency, about to enter puberty, I realized what I was, and that I wasn't a girl. Had I had at the time someone to say, Julia, let's try this. Let's try changing your hair. Let's try wearing different clothes. Let's try using a different name. It would have been so much better for me, because transgender children are so likely to have suicidal ideation and even try to commit suicide because of the societal pressures and just the horrifying nature of what gender dysphoria is. It terrorizes you day and night, sleep and wake. It never lets you rest, ever. I didn't transition until 57 years old. And until then, my brain, my mind never stopped telling me that I was a woman. Never, not even in my sleep.
So I had somebody that I deal with on a weekly basis tell me the other day, and Dirk, you will understand this and appreciate this, that according to recent statistics, almost 80% of transgenders who have transitioned regret their decision. and I told him, you know, dude, that's bullshit, and you know it. And he goes, no. He goes, I have a couple of friends that are transgender. You know, some of my best friends are transgender.
Of course.
I go, what the, you know, anyway, and those people, you just cannot, you can't even talk to them. It's an emotional thing for them. They don't want to believe it. They don't want anybody to, and anyway, never mind.
In the last 2 months, I have had 3 people seriously and genuinely ask me, why do people like you groom children and abuse them?
I know.
I'm so
3 times
sorry.
in the last 2 months.
And my
Yeah,
response,
what? Why do people like you what?
Groom children and abuse them.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
okay, so I have a solution for you, Julia.
What's that?
When you go out in public, wear a habit.
Oh my God.
I would be shot on sight.
And then see if those people still say, why do you groom and abuse children?
I think we have a habit in our Halloween costume closet.
We do.
If you want to borrow, I'll send it your
I
way.
might just do that.
Okay, so here's the thing about what Julia was talking about earlier, that said she said that she read this and then found out that it was untrue. What exactly was it, Julia?
What exactly was it that I read?
Right, that you read that you like found untrue.
That they had classified in Florida being transgender as a sex crime. And if you or your child identified as transgender, that they would take the child from you and arrest you for a sex crime. And
Okay.
then they made sex crimes punishable by death. That's what I read.
So that is only, I mean, that is untrue partially, but also seemingly the goal of what several things that they've been doing could sensibly be.
Do you think imprisonment, like imprisoning transgendered people, is the goal?
Not even imprisoning. They have now, so they've passed a law, they've passed a bill in the Senate and House, that would make like child sex abuse punishable by death.
Except for priests.
Except for priests.
Right.
Yeah, except for priests. Yeah.
Except for
So
white Christian men.
Yeah.
so they've also passed a bill that that makes like you only need 8 out of 12 jurors for the death penalty.
Yes, true.
Right. And
They're chipping away at democracy.
now that we've got this law that makes it like basically sexual abuse in order to help your child to get gender affirming care or provide gender affirming care to a child. That's kind of the road that it's going.
The problem is that I can honestly see where that could cause them more problems than I don't think they thought that one all the way through, because the percentage of how many times that's going to happen in that state when you're talking about transgender stuff is minimal compared to how many people actually do children sexual abuse.
But here's the thing. Even if they don't kill me for being around a child, what they will do and have done is thrown transgender women in men's prison.
Ooh, that's
Think
like
about
the worst.
that one.
Yeah.
That's awful.
And to be specific, the death penalty only applies in cases of sexual battery to a child under 12. So it's very specific, and at the moment excludes transgender people in general.
Right. I mean, if they manage to get that all through,
wait. Let me back up just a second. When you say it excludes transgenders, are you talking about transgenders under 13?
No, what I'm saying is the law that allows for the death penalty for sexual abuse of a child,
right,
specifically aimed at sexual battery, which has a very specific, narrowly defined definition,
right,
against a child under 12. So in general, that excludes transgender people unless somebody's a real lech.
I don't understand what you just said. What do you mean by it excludes transgender people from what?
Meaning,
As a
unless you're a
victim
transgender
or
person who commits battery against a child, sexual battery, you won't be put to the death penalty.
yeah, that's what I mean. So if you commit a sex crime or sexual battery against a transgender under 12 years old, you are not going to be
No.
charged with a crime.
It doesn't have to do with transgender children. It has to do with sexual battery against a child.
Okay.
Okay.
So it has really little to do with transgender people in particular.
No. But what I'm saying is you say excludes, when you say excludes transgender,
People
I'm not
in general, because they don't, what I'm saying is most transgender people, like most people in general, would not sexually abuse a child.
Right.
It just applies to anyone who sexually abuses a 12-year-old or younger child.
So really, they're trying to attack the Catholic Church.
Not really.
that would be so nice. But,
Well,
but
I mean,
the problem
those
is,
I know of,
the problem is
accused of
who
that.
gets to define what that abuse is.
What's that?
That
Battery has
issue.
a definition, right?
Yeah, battery has a very specific definition in sexual battery has a very specific definition in Florida. It has to do with unwanted sexual touching, penetration, things like that. This particular one is not aimed at transgender people on the surface so far.
okay, so that's what you meant by that excludes transgender people.
By and large, yes, exactly.
Okay, all right. I just wasn't understanding that, so thank you for the clarification.
Yeah.
So here
So they are trying to protect children.
Yeah, but let's see if they apply it to everybody across the board equally. That's the problem.
Put that another piece on.
Yeah, it doesn't seem that, I mean, it doesn't seem that anybody's ever been very serious on actual sex
protecting of children, yeah, they
sex crimes
don't
in
give a shit
general.
about kids.
Yeah.
What
I mean, it
done?
would be interesting to see. I mean, I don't know. It would be interesting to see them actually protecting children, but yeah, it's strange timing, and
It is.
and if they get that through, I just would worry that
They did get it through.
expand on that to where they actually wanted to go.
So far in my reading, they have at least jailed one transgender woman in a men's prison for having an argument in public. I'm not sure the details of the argument. It obviously got pretty bad because the police were called in. But they put her in men's prison. What happened to her in there, I don't know.
Okay, so are you talking about prison or jail?
Jail.
I mean, like a county lockup or county jail is a lot different than, well, it's not the same as prison. So,
right.
And you, I mean, they don't send you to prison unless you've been to court and been charged, and then, right? Is that right, Dirk? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it may, I mean, not that one is any better than the other. It's just, in a lot of cases, the county or the local lockup is worse than prison sometimes.
So in general, are transgender people sent to the prison corresponding to their current gender?
It varies. It totally varies. Tucker Carlson's disgusting father was a real champion of sending trans women to men's prisons.
But is there a clear rule for this, or is it just sort of taken on a case and decided on a case by case basis or by state?
It just
case
depends
by case?
on the judge.
Depends on how evil.
It depends on who's sitting on the bench.
I'm looking it up right now.
I'll be right back.
Part of this, we have 9 Supreme Court justices, 6 of whom, and this is a taboo subject to bring up during confirmation hearings. 6 of them are Catholic. 6 of them are Catholic. One of them is an Episcopalian who was raised as a Catholic. Elaine Kagan is Jewish, and I'm not sure who the other justices are or what their religious affiliation is, but there's an overwhelming
They
majority.
let a Jew on the Supreme Court.
There's an overwhelming majority of Roman Catholic people on the Supreme Court that is never challenged in confirmation because that is taboo. And I think it's wrong. I think these people, other than I find the majority of them thoroughly disgusting, I think it's wrong that the religious question cannot come up during confirmation hearings. And yet it plays such a vital role in what's happening right now because these people, these fascists, like in Florida and a lot of other states, are hiding behind this cloak of piety, this religious excuse to do these damage to people. And they're getting away with it because all these people sitting at home watching Fox News think, oh my God, the country's going to hell. We got to do something to save it.
Amy,
well, that's the thing. And they won't do. We speak to these people in public. We speak to them about these kind of issues. We speak to them about guns, which is another topic. And they all complain about it. And we say, well, why do you keep voting for the same people? Well, that's our guy. We can't vote for a Democrat or an independent because they are the ones that are keeping these dickheads in office. Our own friends are the only ones who aren't changing things at the ballot box. And this
is why I'm here. This is why
I'm as angry. I'm like John. I'm about ready to explode. I get so mad I can't talk about it.
I mean, but we have so much diversity.
No, listen,
we have one kind
meet
of
on Tuesday nights in the garage down on the corner. So come join us.
Amy Comey Barrett is a Mormon.
Are you saying that
the Mormons are?
Oh, no, she's not. No, she's a Roman Catholic. She's a Roman Catholic. She is a poster child. She is a poster child for the Handmaid's Tale. She is in a Roman Catholic subgroup that subjugates themselves to their husbands.
Who is that?
Amy Coney Barrett.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah.
She's
an extreme Catholic.
Yeah.
She's not. Worse. Well, that would be worse.
Okay, so I do have one little point.
I mean, we have a second kind of Christian. I mean, we don't just have the one kind of Christian on the Supreme Court. We've got some people who are another kind of Christian.
There are other
apparently one non-Christian. What more diversity could you possibly want? We've got Christian and more Christian and more Christian, and then another person.
And one Jew.
You know, I'll say
verse
because we just spent a day walking around in Pompeii. A Roman pre-Christian, buried in volcanic ash village.
The debauchery capital.
And their art in their houses and the things they were dedicated to. I have to say it was absolutely beautiful because it's like pictures depicting all kinds of sex, let me tell you. Women and men and men, like all kinds of things, women and women, just everybody having fun together pretty much and enjoying life. And it was like, wow, it just made me feel really good to see that there was a period in time where human beings were just freely enjoying themselves in whatever way.
But what she's failing to mention is that most of those people who are being, if you will say, victimized by these sex acts were slaves. They didn't have a choice.
It was with each other in the art.
That is true as well, but a lot of them were slaves, and they were being victimized by the whole. They're the ones that built Pompeii in the first place. You know, it's just The Roman Empire was built on slavery, top to bottom.
As was America.
What else is new?
But the reason why
they just didn't really seem to care who was having sex.
You're right.
The reason why I'm here is because so many of my friends and so many people who are well-meaning don't get it, aren't paying attention, don't understand, don't care, believe what they're being told, and like I said, have come to me and asked why I'm a child molester.
Yeah.
And when I was molested as a child, come on.
That's the worst.
I have one piece of humor that I want to throw in there while we have a chance. I don't know if you're all aware of this, but Lauren Boebert is now a 36-year-old divorced grandmother.
I would be happier if she was a 36-year-old vegetable at this point.
Yeah, well, That's
He is
giving
a vegetable.
vegetables a bad name.
True.
You're right.
I know vegetables are so good for you.
That actually wasn't much of a joke because she was already a punchline with so many other things.
Yeah. Well, it's just
The
one
thing is,
more.
he's proud of that.
If you had 36-year-old
Proud of that.
divorced grandma on your bingo card, you just won.
But she's proud of that, though.
Yeah,
She's
no
proud
doubt.
of that.
Yeah,
True.
I'm sure.
I'd
Yeah,
say she could
nuts.
join me for bingo, but I tend toward drag bingo, which might not be her kind of event.
So I would
As
like to,
the
if we can,
600-year-old church bell tolls.
if we can, I would like to clarify what American Medical Association and all the other big American medical associations define as gender affirming health care for minors.
sure.
I had
Yeah.
mentioned
Yeah.
a little bit of it
Like,
earlier.
literally, please.
I had mentioned a little bit of it earlier. Generally speaking, it's before 16, it's therapy and consultations with medical professionals to see where they're at mentally. It's, as I had said, change of hair, change of clothes, change of name, and a way of testing the waters to see how they feel about the way things are with them. It's not normally until 16. Oh, and also puberty blockers, which are totally reversible, and have been used for decades for children who have the rare malady of what they call precocious puberty, which is starting puberty way too early. These have been used
and
for
it's not
decades.
good. Yeah.
These have been used for decades successfully on cisgender children, but they won't let them use them on transgender children. And it's not until 16 that they start talking about administering hormones. And surgery is not until 18. And those are rare exceptions when those lines are crossed.
So, Julia,
Just for clarification, when you say that the puberty blockers are totally reversible, I would think that certain biological changes would be happening at puberty. Are you saying that if one later were to discontinue those puberty blockers, those physiological changes that would have happened at puberty will then take place?
Yes, absolutely. So it's a no loss type of thing that the AMA and other organizations espouse. Again, anything like hormones before 16 and any surgery before 18 is extremely rare.
and don't you have to, I mean, isn't it a requirement before any surgery or anything that you have to live as the gender of your choice for like 2 years or something prior
I
to
don't know
that?
if WPATH dropped that or not, but it used to be 2 years, 2 letters from 2 different therapists, which I had to do, and this was only a year and a half ago.
Right.
I had to produce 2 letters from 2 different therapists, which meant I had to see 2 therapists for 2 years on my dime just to get those 2 letters
Yeah.
So it's a
while I was on
privilege,
hormones for 2 years.
thing. Yeah.
Yet we
Yeah, it's
only
a
have
privilege
a
thing
less
to
than
do that.
1% regret rate, but it's considered dangerous.
Our
It's
shitty
insane.
healthcare system is a whole new can of worms.
But I mean, I was, reading even this, like children who decide that they want to try on a different name, that they want to go to school, that they want to be called their gender that they identify with's name, that they're terrified in going to school and then being outed by calling the name that's on their school registration documents.
Sure.
And that Florida is doing something to block that as well.
Well, dead naming, as they call it, to dead name a child or anybody can be traumatic. I have tried very hard to live my life so that if you use my dead name, I'm okay. I have a history. I used to be male. I embrace it. And I encourage all transgender people to embrace their past. Because it's only by hiding your past that you become vulnerable.
But that is not that has not always been the case.
No.
Like years ago, that was not something that Julia was comfortable with.
Right.
I knew your dead name. I don't know that anyone else like who was in your life at the time did know it.
Right. I mean,
years ago, you didn't have to worry about the intrusion of media and social media the way you have right now. So I agree with you 100%. If you embrace your past, it's really hard for people to use it against you.
But
if you try to hide it, it can blow up in your face.
But here's the thing: so many transgender people, and I can't disagree with this. So many transgender women want to pass, and transgender men, they want to pass and not be known for their past.
I wonder.
I understand that.
So on that, just a quick question of etiquette from a non-transgender person.
Sure.
If I'm telling a story about somebody in the past that takes place before their gender transition, should I use their current name and gender?
Yes.
Okay.
But it really depends on the person, but in general, yes.
Thanks.
When I speak of my past, I often refer to myself as Julia, even though that wasn't my name when I was, say, 22 years old.
Yeah, I don't think I knew your dead name either.
Well, my dead name now still exists on my license because I haven't changed my name to the female version.
Gotcha.
You know, which is it, but it's all fine by me. But most trans people, it is not fine. It is stress making to hear that name.
Yeah, I mean, you're just saying your dead name is on your passport, it's on your driver's license when you travel, and that's just what it is. And I kind of wonder, like, could it? I'd like to feel, and maybe I don't. Is it the idea of passing for the opposite gender the ideal, or maybe is the ideal actually being it okay to be transgendered?
Well, see, and that's a big one, because for me, it's not about passing, it's about being a woman, living as a woman, enjoying my life as a woman. But for some people, and many people, it's critical that people don't know that they grew up male. And the reason why is gender dysphoria is almost like a form of PTSD. It causes unwanted thoughts like PTSD. It causes flashbacks. It's very traumatic, and most people don't understand that gender dysphoria is so bad. My time in the military.
Describing that? Like what it like? Do you mind describing like what you experience emotionally with gender dysphoria?
Oh my gosh.
I think there are like really a lot of levels to that because there are physical issues. There's so much.
Let's go back to what I told Tally way back, which is
I can.
When I was 9 years old and I put my hand down there and I realized I wasn't a girl, it was like finding a lobster-sized tick instead of a vagina. It was abhorrent on the level of wanting to cut it off. And a lot of children who don't receive gender-affirming care resort to mutilation to try and fix what's wrong.
Wow.
It's on a psychological level. Let me put it this way: I've been raped by a priest, I've been raped by a stranger, I was raped by a brother for 3 years nearly every night. What I saw in the service, what I've seen as a civilian, all of it together does not add up to what I experienced with gender dysphoria. None of that ever made me suicidal. Gender dysphoria at 54 years old made me suicidal as an adult. As a child, you don't have the words, you don't have the coping strategies, and you often don't have the support that you need. And it becomes deadly to children. It is really, really a strong and bad thing to deal with. This is why gender affirming care is so important for children. If for no other
And if it
reason
was
than they
just
need the
okay.
support.
I mean, do you think if gender across the board, if gender wasn't so pronounced, like if there was more of a spectrum of genders that was just accepted, if that would somehow like make it better, you know, like for
I,
everybody, you know. And I think that's why so many people identify as like a they or a them that might be kind of like, you know, a cisgendered person who's somewhat, you know, classically, you know, whatever that might be, but they might identify with the they or them just because because they appreciate or support the spectrum of not wanting to be associated or known just for their gender.
This is one of the things professionals are very keen on, and that is differentiating between wanting to experiment and find out and actually being. And one of the main identifiers of people who suffer from gender dysphoria is not that they think that they are, is that a child absolutely knows that they are. That's what the professionals look for.
Right. And then I just wonder if that, you know, it's like, I'd say that you know, and maybe this is just like a thing that semi-straight people do, but I feel like I don't know too many people that would say that they're 100% straight. Maybe, but I feel like a lot of people are 80-20 or 60-40, and maybe that's not gender dysphoria, but I feel like there's such a spectrum of people, and that if, you know, that gender is so emphasized as like this or that, it has to be so black and white.
But
And I just
that's
wonder if this
sexuality.
movement,
Like sexuality
what was
and
that, Tyler?
that's sexuality. Like sexuality and gender are so different, like not really related. And that's like a
But
lot
I
of
think the
people,
word spectrum is a good word. I
I
think
think most people honestly are really surprised when they find out that that like most trans women are actually attracted to women. they I think people who don't really know a lot about trans people view trans women as gay men.
I get that a lot because I don't pass. But I think the word spectrum is absolutely perfect for gender because there is such a variation, and there are people who are non-binary. I used to relate as non-binary because I was too chicken to admit that I was female,
So,
because that meant I would have had to get the surgery because I knew it. I knew it. I knew it in my heart. But I fought it my whole life because I didn't want the surgery. But in the end, I needed it to cope, to live.
so I'm curious, kind of going on Rachel's point and I know these two are probably difficult to tease apart, but for you, is it more about um, the physicality of your gender, or more about the way that you were treated by society? As far as, yeah, if that does that make any sense?
It makes absolute sense, and I'll put it to you this way: it's both for me. Everybody's different, but for me, it was both. How I'm treated on a daily basis, called miss, ma'am, even called bitch. It makes me feel good, when another woman says, "Hey, bitch, come here," it makes me feel good. Um, but what it came down to was, I was at a party. I was speaking with a young lady, who we had great chemistry, and we really were vibing. And I thought, hey, this is great. Found out she was gay, and told her very sincerely who I was. We were naked. It was a pool party. We were all naked by the pool, and told her very sincerely about who I am and how I am literally a lesbian trapped in a man's body. And she said, I appreciate what you're saying. I understand you. And she looked down at my genitals and looked back at me and said, but we can't date. because she's gay. She doesn't like what I had. And that's when I realized physically that I could no longer go on, that I had to change who I was physically to be able to keep living. Because without it, I had no hope of ever being loved for who I was. And that's where suicide started to creep in.
So would it be safe? I mean, would it be accurate to say that you felt the need to change your physicality for it to match the way that you wanted to be treated by society?
Not just society, but by partners. By partners. I mean, we all want that person in our life or persons in our life who understand us, who get us, who love us. As long as I had a penis, I would always have been treated like a male on some level. Even if it's, I mean, to be frank, even if it's just oral sex. The very act of oral sex when you have a penis means things are done differently in a physical way. And for me, that caused my brain to just go nuts. Agonizing mental anguish. So I had to change. And like I said, I never wanted to. I never, ever wanted the surgery. I got it because I knew if I didn't, I would commit suicide.
I mean, Julia, do you think if I mean, dating is really difficult, but do you think if you somehow like found a woman who you had chemistry with, who appreciated you as a person who identifies as a woman, who is a woman, but with male parts, if somehow you found that person that accepted your femininity with the parts that you have, if that somehow still could, do you think that could have, like, if you'd found that, do you think that maybe would have changed your experience?
I found that. I've known her for 9 years. We are still connected, and it did not change a thing. It left me feeling like I just wanted to exit.
Wow. Just because the parts were so unfamiliar to you and so not how you felt like you
It came down to
were.
this. When it
Yeah.
came to sex and me having a penis and her having a vagina, ultimately, it was either have sex and enjoy and be tortured mentally, or don't have sex and suffer. It didn't matter. Either way, I suffered. The physical act of having a male body and having sex tore my brain up every time. I never enjoyed having sex completely because my brain would scream, "What are you doing? What are you doing? This is not what you are." So no matter what we did, it just it didn't work.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. It's really hard to imagine and understand. So thank you.
I know a couple that she's transgender, but she has not had the surgery.
Mm-hmm.
They've been a couple he's a male, she's transgender female. To the best of my knowledge, they've been a couple for about 8, 9, maybe 10 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And she lives as a woman. And I mean, if you saw her, you would not know that she's transgender.
Mm-hmm.
Her partner is, I mean, they're a great couple. They're happy together. And so for different people, different things have different effects.
That's true.
I mean, because she had said that she never had a desire to have the surgery to become, to have whatever the surgery was. And I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, well, I never wanted it either. But it just came down to the point where I couldn't imagine, I couldn't fantasize, I couldn't
Right.
embrace, I couldn't accept any more than I already had. And it still wasn't enough.
I get it. The thing is that it's hard to make people understand because there's really no real equivalency.
Right.
It's like, you're this person, you're this thing, but there's always that one thing in your life that always makes you remember or think about that other people are going to think you're something else.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't.
There's no comparison.
It would make you crazy because that reminder is always there and it won't go away until you can get it to go away. So I know what you're trying to. Yeah. I know exactly what you're saying, but I just can't think of an equivalency to come up with it because it's.
I feel like the lobster tick was such
yeah.
Like explanation. Like there's just a lobster-sized tick inside of your pants.
And the thing is that it's not even just the fact that it's there to remind you every day. It's something that if other people see it, it will immediately make them think that you fall into that category too. So it's like you're fighting it every fucking day between yourself and others. You have this constant war going on that's telling you you're something that you're not. And you know who you are. So I get it.
Exactly. And I've said it before, a common fantasy among transgender women is to call an ambulance, wait till they're there, just about to knock on your door, and cut your genitals off. That is a common fantasy among transgender women. Wow. That's how abhorrent it is to have the genitals of another sex when you identify, say, as a woman and are a man physically.
I mean, it's like I can of most people that I've talked to with whatever, with boobs or penises or whatever they've got, like the idea that you'd want to or feel driven to lop them off, it's like I can't even imagine that reality to the extent that it's like, I mean, the criticism that's out there is like, oh, you're making it up, or it's not really real, or it's not really your experience. It's like, I don't know what's more real than feeling so disconnected from the parts that are attached to your body that you just want to cut them off. Like, I don't know many people that would want to cut off anything because of the suffering, and that you'd be willing to endure that suffering just because you're so uncomfortable with this body that you don't feel identified with. Like, that seems really intense.
It's fascinating that you say that because it's really interesting to me that the only people that see this stuff in really terms of black and white are those people who are so afraid that their religious beliefs are going to be usurped in some way because there's somebody different out there. They can't have empathy for this other person because they don't understand it. They're afraid of it. They can't appreciate what that other person is going through, so they'd rather outlaw it. They would rather make that person go through more suffering and deal with more laws that they can. They're throwing everything at them they possibly can to make their lives more fucking miserable. Instead, just leave them alone.
There was at the turn of the century, and I wish I could think of his name. There was a woman who was a jazz musician who actually lived as a man, and no one knew until they died that she was a woman. And I wish I could remember the name. The point being is that this isn't something new. And I think I remember when I was a kid, like in the 50s or something, and I've been trying to remember the name. One of the first transgender women to have the operation, was it Christine Keeler? Help me out, old man.
Maybe?
What?
Renee Richards, maybe?
Say that again.
Dr. Renee Richards?
That's it.
Tennis player?
Yeah. And that was like, what, mid to late 50s, early 50s?
No. You're confusing Christine Jorgensen.
Jorgensen, that's it. Yes. She was Swedish or Norwegian or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. And she was one of the first, was she not?
She was one of the first, but there was a clinic in Germany in 1919, a transgender clinic with 20,000 volumes, books, many of them irreplaceable, that by the time Hitler took control in 1932, they actually did one of the first book burnings was that clinic. All 20,000 volumes. Most of the people there died one way or another, whether it was through being killed or killing themselves or dying in loneliness in some other country. But that clinic was so advanced, even by today's standards, but it was destroyed by Hitler. And this is what's starting to happen in Florida with the book banning, the don't say gay, the bans on
Erase.
What's that?
Just erase it. Just
Is
don't
there-
ever tell anyone it exists.
Mhm.
Yeah. Is there any
Yeah.
chance?
No one that
we
needs
could-
that will know that it's available.
Yeah, is there any chance that we could convince pretty much all the MAGA Republicans to move to like Texas and Alabama and Mississippi and Florida and then just build a big fucking wall and
Well, Russia already issued the invitation. I mean, they're starting construction next year on their migrant city so they've all got a place to go,
yeah.
or they will soon.
And another
They can
thing
go and
about
have
Florida,
their super straight, super Christian, super Republican, gun-toting wonderland.
Not allowed to have guns in Russia.
I mean, doesn't everyone though?
I mean, it's crazy being over here. They said that since the US sanctioned the Russian oligarchs, that they were coming over to Italy with their mega yachts and spending tons of money, and now that they're not here, that they're losing lots of money in tourism, which is like, it's crazy to think of, like, who, where does the trickle down go to when you start sanctioning people with lots of money? And it's like,
And what is
it's crazy.
What is the attitude over there about that?
We haven't really talked to enough people to fully know, but
the impression I got was that they didn't like them, but they liked their money.
Yeah. And that's pretty typical.
That's how most people feel in their states or countries or cities when it comes to tourism.
I mean,
I
do think
that means we got 5 minutes left.
I went to school in Florida, and I think Miami is an amazing multicultural city, but the rest of Florida is kind of like, the rest of Florida is backwards in a sense, and I do feel like, if Disney bails, because they've been trying to pretty much tell Disney they can't be non-discriminatory, but if what Florida is pushing is to make this exclusive state of only Christian people and to just drive everybody else away, Florida's going to be underwater in like 20 years.
That's awesome.
So
yeah, I mean, go to Florida, really, they're doing everyone a favor,
Yeah, no, do it. Yeah.
And honestly, I'm willing to concede Florida to those assholes. Let them have it and let us have the rest of the country back.
That's what I'm saying.
The problem.
Let them all move there, man. Get everybody in one place, and then.
And it hurts me because I love Florida. My brother lives in Tampa Bay, so I love Florida.
I know it's so nice, right?
The problem
And once
is,
it's underwater, though, it'll just be a bunch of really Christian, really straight meth gators.
Yeah.
the
All right,
problem
so
is,
before we finish, Alec Murdoch was indicted today on 22 federal counts of financial fraud and all that stuff. So that's really great.
That's Rupert's son, right?
No. Oh, shut up. Alec Murdoch.
Sorry. I know that's the guy that killed his family.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I know. I'm sorry, Kate. I couldn't resist that.
You were saying the problem is.
the problem is that 14 states so far have followed Florida with their ban on childhood affirming care for transgender children. And many states are following the language that Florida is using in their bans, in their Don't Say Gay bans, in their transgender children of transgender affirming care. It's spreading. It's not just Florida. And how do we stop it?
Well, so are child labor laws. They're changing child labor laws all over the country too.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Crazy
shit.
I mean, and I guess it's like, if you can move, if you can leave, okay, but it's
poor people can't leave.
Poor people can't leave. So then what if you're a child of a poor family in a state that doesn't support this, and then you're just really trapped, right?
Right.
Always since they keep gerrymandering everything so that they can keep putting their people in positions of power and keep the people that it affects the most, keep them from voting, or at least getting to the voting polls.
Okay, so my solution is the federal government stops giving money to Florida and takes that money and provides funds for those people, poor people, who want to move out of Florida to someplace else. Disney shuts down Disney World, which makes the economy in Florida collapse. There will be no jobs, and they can have Florida.
Yeah.
But it's all these other states too. It's these 26 other states as well.
Yeah.
You know?
You've got approximately
one at a time. We'll take them on one at a time. Hey guys, we got to go. I got another show I got to get ready for. So, any last, not last words, but any final thoughts?
Sure.
I say just spread the notion that the whole Russian, claim that the Russian migrant city is a conspiracy theory and dissuade the Republicans from going there so that they actually
do. Yeah.
That's my thought.
And I love all the people that Putin has sanctioned here in the last couple of days. I thought that was great.
Hey, Talia.
Yes.
You have to watch Guardians of the Galaxy Part 3. At the end of it, his daughter's in it, Scott Lang's daughter, and she's telling this one character, she says, just don't be a dick. He's saying, I've been a dick all my life, blah, blah, blah. It's going on and on. She looks at him, she says, you can always stop being a dick.
Never too late to stop being a dick.
Right. So and if you don't believe that, ask Julia.
Look, the transgender population.
I couldn't resist that. I'm sorry.
The transgender population in the United States is approximately 0.5% of the population, which means that if we're going to get help, if we're going to get through to our politicians, we need the help of cisgender people. We need you. And we can't.
Well, I can certainly see why, with numbers that large, these people in Florida would really think you guys are a detriment to the safety of the entire fucking world.
Yeah, it's 110,000 transgender people out of 22 million people in Florida. It's barely 0.5%. And we are somehow a threat, and we're not. And another thing, transgender people like me know what it's like to have been a male. Now I know what it's like to be a female, and I'm learning more every day. Isn't that perspective valuable?
It's so valuable.
Well, wait. Valuable or threatening?
Both.
Yes.
Valuable.
Right?
Both.
It's valuable on one hand, but it's threatening on the other end. That's what they're afraid of.
Sure.
And I would even say precious. Because the things that women experience that I know, Julia, you've shared like on Facebook and things, it's like the way that men treat women
is vastly different from the way they treat men.
It can be good, but it's often awful. And it's like to have actually more people that understand that can really advocate for more kindness for everyone. Like that's only good. That's only good.
That all adds up to the amount of fear, the percentage of fear. The more fear you have for something, the more threatening it is to you.
That's right.
And fear is being propagated against us because we are so hard to understand.
Yeah.
So
misunderstand.
Talk to your trans friends and let them know that you have their back, and that if they need you, you will protect them. You'll go somewhere with them. You will do something for them, whatever they need. And if you don't have any trans friends, go make one.
Go make one.
Thanks for being here, Julia. John's got to go. I know we got
Thanks for having me.
My final words for today, you guys, are, as Bill and Ted said, be excellent to each other.
Absolutely.
Thank
Love you guys.
See y'all.
Bye, everybody.
Love you guys.